Before the break, I dug into the SpaceX IPO prospectus. Look, by any stretch of the imagination, very hard to justify a $2 trillion valuation for a money-losing company with decent growth. Yet people are incredibly excited about this thing. Some think it could be worth even more than that, and for the good reasons I'm about to give you. See, there's more than just the numbers in this prospectus. SpaceX is an Elon Musk vehicle, and that means it's all about the story, about a vision for the future. If you believe in that vision, $2 trillion, it doesn't seem that unreasonable. From the very start, SpaceX lists its mission as building, quote, the systems and technologies necessary to make life multiplanetary, end quote. So you can see this document is one of great optimism. They even included a chart that talked about a $28.5 trillion total addressable market, although, as critics pointed out, that's nearly the size of the entire U.S. GDP last year. Now, I don't want to get into the details too thick, though, because that's almost beside the point with this one. Long story short, SpaceX believes it can make a fortune as long as it keeps investing mainly in artificial intelligence. The prospectus lists a ton of different long-term great growth opportunities in space, in Starlink, in AI, where they're talking about deploying data centers in space where solar energy can create a real edge over terrestrial data centers with huge power demands. But I'm more interested in their near-term plans. There are three in particular that make SpaceX relatively enticing right now. First, let's talk about the Starship program, which is SpaceX's effort to create a much larger reusable rocket than their current product line. The idea is that this thing will be able to deliver 100 metric tons to Earth's orbit and then come right back down. That's nearly double their heaviest existing rocket, and management believes they can get to 200 metric tons in the not-too-distant future. Hey, they just did the 12th test for Starship last Friday, one that hit most of its targets. The plan is that these will go into operation sometime in the second half of the year. If SpaceX can really make that deadline, then it'll be a major boon for their slowing space division. The second near-term growth opportunity mentioned in the prospectus is SpaceX's recently announced deal to lease some of its NVIDIA-powered data center capacity in Memphis to Anthropic. Apparently, Anthropic's agreed to pay SpaceX $1.25 billion per month through May of 2029 for the right to use its compute, with capacity ramping in May and June for a reduced fee. In other words, SpaceX's AI segment, which had $3.2 billion in revenue last year, could see an incremental $15 billion in revenue per year, starting almost immediately. SpaceX also said that they, quote, expect to enter into additional similar services contracts, end quote. All of this amounts to a new hyperscaler-like business for SpaceX, similar to Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud. This Anthropic deal alone dramatically changes the economics of the AI division, potentially transforming it from a money pit to a money maker. The third near-term effort that we got more details on in the prospectus is SpaceX's deal with Cursor. That's an AI startup that lets clients write software code through simple text prompts. It's kind of similar to Claude Code, or you might have heard of OpenAI's Codex. In late April, SpaceX and Cursor announced a deal to work together, with Cursor giving SpaceX the right to acquire them for $60 billion in stock, or they could simply pay $10 billion in case SpaceX decides not to pull the trigger. The main part of the agreement is that SpaceX will, quote, provide Cursor with certain GPU cluster compute capacity and collaborate to improve existing models, including Grok, and potentially jointly develop AI models and related model-specific deliverables or products, end quote. Basically, SpaceX gives Cursor compute, and in return, it gets to use Cursor's technology to improve Grok and potentially create other AI products together. We'll probably know whether SpaceX wants to go ahead with the acquisition in the next month or two. Now, how would that change the story? Well, Cursor is a very well-regarded company, and the addition of Cursor would boost xAI's status amongst the leading AI labs, which really matters. Of course, $60 billion, not exactly a small chunk of change. It would be an all-stock deal, though, meaning it wouldn't hurt SpaceX's cash balances, but existing shareholders would indeed be diluted. And then the AI business would absorb whatever Cursor's financials look like. As with the Anthropic deal, that should help the AI segment's revenue, but we have to assume that Cursor is also a long way from profitability. Honestly, there is much, much more in SpaceX's IPO prospectus than I've been able to cover, even in two segments. There are more details on ambitious projects that the company has in the works, like a couple projects that SpaceX is doing with Elon Musk's other company, Tesla. There are key details about things like the lockup on insider selling, which could significantly impact how the stock trades in its first several months, and critical details about control of the company. Long story short, Musk's grip on SpaceX is ironclad. thanks to its 94% ownership position in the company's Class B shares, which have 10 votes per share. But we'll have plenty of time to dig into the rest of the story as we get closer to the IPO and learn more about the deal's pricing. For now, I just hope that you have a much better understanding of what the SpaceX business looks like and what some of the top near-term growth opportunities might be. Look, overall, I think the SpaceX prospectus is a bit of a Rorschach test. There will be some staid value investors who put their pencils down after going through the current numbers and decide, this business just isn't for them. There will be other more optimistic, less detail-oriented investors who don't need to look at anything more than the total addressable market chart and hear things like, quote, data centers in space, end quote, and asteroid mining to know that they're buying this stock no matter what the price looks like. I don't know much about asteroid mining, but I do think Musk will eventually be able to send data centers into space if he wants to. I just don't know what happens if something goes wrong. Very expensive to do repairs in orbit, right? At the same time, I bet there's a whole contingent of Musk's most fervent believers who swap out of Tesla into the superior SpaceX once they have the chance. Most investors are going to fall somewhere between these two camps, which is a reasonable place to be, frankly. Here's the bottom line. Historically, it's rarely paid to bet against Elon Musk. But at the same time, SpaceX is far from perfect, and the stock's almost certainly going to be expensive. Even if you want to own it, you might not want to buy it right away. But then again, that depends on where they price the deal. Either way, it'll have a huge impact on the rest of the market, which is why I'll keep following SpaceX so closely. And if you do decide to try to get some stock, it might pay to put a limit order on your order, no matter what, okay? Whatever price equates to $2 trillion market cap, as I simply can't justify paying any more than that without new information that changes the company's near-term prospects. Let's take calls. Let's go to Pete in Georgia. Pete.
Hey, Jim. How are you, sir?
I am good, Pete. How you doing?
I'm doing well. A little foggy down here in Atlanta.
Oh,
hey,
fantastic.
I've got a pretty sizable investment in NVIDIA, but I'm 5 years to retirement. I'm just wondering if NVIDIA has become a compounder. And outside of that, would you look at Arista, Broadcom, or Micron, which, of course, popped today at the best time.
Micron, big spike. Arista, I'm not sure about how their near-term prospects are going to be. Broadcom we own for the charitable trust. We talk about that tomorrow at our noon meeting. I would say this. NVIDIA currently is not reflecting the strength of the company. It just didn't have the kind of oomph that I thought the stock didn't, that the quarter actually had. I know that if you go, I don't know, you may not be a member of the club. I really went at length about what NVIDIA must do to get the stock price up. But that's certainly not their goal. It's to get the business strong, and they're doing a great job of that. All right, look, SpaceX will definitely be an expensive stock when it comes public next month, but it's really paid to bet against Elon Musk, has it? Now, there's much more mad money in it, including my sit-down with a company called Bridge. This private player is using AI to empower healthcare providers. I'm finding out more about the company's mission and its prospects from the CEO. And it might be easy to cast aspersions on the data center build-out, but is there more to this story than just the headlines that all seem so negative? I'll break it all down, you doomers. And all your calls rapid fire in tonight's edition of the Lightning Round. So stay with Cramer.
Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on X. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadMentions. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.